Okay, we should be there now. Okay, let me just run through. Yeah, I know it's off. Okay. All right, we should have audio now. Anyway, all right, so let me just keep doing. I gotta fix. I'm already feeling the ingress of Mercury retrograde. I just want to point out, oh gosh, where are we now? Okay, sorry. Okay, you should be able to hear me now. Okay. So I'm starting to chart out some of the basics for August, and then there's gonna, some of the stuff is already pretty scary for September, and October is going to be an absolute, I don't know how to describe it. It's just going to be mayhem, crisis on top of crisis, mayhem. And then the election itself is, we're going to have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all retrograde, and Pluto at the 29.5 degree mark Capricorn. I mean, it's going to be absolute chaos. That's the very, very simple way to describe it. The details of the chaos, we're going to have to figure those out a little bit more as we go along. Somebody, you mentioned something that looks like a Tilt-A-Whirl Carnival ride. I see what you mean, like, whoa, whoa. So we pointed out all these stress points for the 21st. That was a few days ago. That was Sunday night, I think. And each one of these swirls represents a major crisis point because we're on the cusps, we're on the 29 degree mark, and we're on the 0 marks, and so on and so on. Very close to these cusp areas where it's very, 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 very difficult to navigate. Okay? Especially with, let's see, I mean, it's just a mess. But anyway, we're dealing with it. Okay? And we have moved on. As you can see, the moon is over here. And now we've shoveled over to here, okay? So, very shortly, the moon is going to start transiting through Pisces. This is going to be very, very, very wobbly for Kamala, okay? Things are going to get very unstable, hyper unstable for Kamala. A story might come out for this, and then it'll turn into that. A story might come out about that, and it'll turn into this. Oh my God, Joe Biden's dead. Oh no. Oh my God, he made a speech. Oh no. Oh my God, Kamala has been appointed, anointed. What's the point in having an election or a Congress, whatever it is? So that's another story. I just want to come back to that. So anyway, where are we? Let's have a look. All right, we'll come back to the stage in a minute. So one of the things I'm going to point out is this polarity. We've had like a double duty polarity. We had the full moon, sun in Cancer, technically, Pluto and moon very, very close together, Capricorn. And then within a matter of hours, like flipping to the Leo Aquarius. So they're very, very close to each other, because that would be like the Cancer Capricorn axis, sun and moon, and then it flips to the Leo Aquarius axis. So that's put double duty stresses on, depending on who you are, your astrological makeup, and so on. But anyway, that's just part of the ingredients of the crisis, the crises, multiples. I just want to run through a few things like we do. I'm hoping that Victor shows up because he likes to do the global astrology things. All right, over here. So I was up early tracking a few things. First thing that came onto my attention was that Kimberly Cheetle resigned early this morning. She was under extreme pressure in Congress, and my feeling is that Obama and the cabal basically said, there's nothing we can do anymore. You're better off if you just resign, and we'll figure out what to do next. So Cheetle represented like a firewall, okay, between the depravity that we know is going on relative to the public arena. And her, she was being coached the whole way through, basically deny, deflect, delay. And that's what she did, to the point where it enraged Congress and the whole of America, pretty much the whole of the world, to the point where the strategy of deflect, delay, deny just didn't hold up anymore, and there wasn't anything left to be done except for her to boot herself out. There's a new person supposedly coming in who's going to start to take the heat. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. It's just, okay, let's just keep moving on. Later today, you've heard of Karine Jean-Pierre. She is the White House press secretary who basically speaks on behalf of the Democrat National Party, Joe Biden, Kamala, everything to do with Grandpa Joe. And she assured us that he is the greatest president of all time and that he has left an outstanding legacy and that he's just doing fine. He just needed a bit of a break for a whole week, completely absent. And then she assured us that, he is going to speak tomorrow night at 8 p.m. That's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. And so that started another chain reaction of like, ooh, he must be dead, he must be dying, or he must be very, very sick. The other one would be like, oh, they're doing a lot of coaching to get him ready for the speech, because there's so many uncontrollable aspects of what's happening, unfolding, and the Democratic Party is having trouble trying to control it. There are other people saying that he is going to announce that he's going to resign the presidency and hand it over to Kamala. Who knows? All of it is very disturbing. It's all characteristic of crisis. Major crisis. So, yeah. The whole world is watching. One of the things that I thought was very shameful, very embarrassing today, whether you like Arabs or Jews, Israel or Palestine, there are certain protocols, in politics, and sometimes politicians like to give the middle finger to each other. But this was a very, very big one. So Netanyahu, he's the boss over there in Israel, and he's up to his neck in a war, and he wants to keep the war going. But everybody wants peace, and so on and so on. And he was scheduled to meet with Joe Biden. Of course, that's not happening. And so then everybody thought, well, he's bound to be meeting up with Kamala. And that's not happening. So when Netanyahu got off the plane today, I think it was last night or early this morning in Washington, there was nobody there to greet him except a couple of government aides and admin people from the Democrat Party. So it was to me, it's very shocking, very, very insulting. I'm not saying I'm a fan of Israel or Netanyahu, but everybody on the world was watching that to see what would happen. And anyway, it was extremely rude. And it's also very, very telling, because it's a dead giveaway that Obama is running everything, and he's doing the middle finger to the Jewish American, alliance, because Obama is trying to install Islam into the United States, death to America, and all that stuff through the invisible hand, where he's got his hand on the shoulders of everybody. Oh, Love Trevor's got a point. Can't risk a life anymore. Yeah, that's true. Hello, Fluffles. I'm not going to do any readings. I just want to get some stuff out. So, you probably also heard about Yellowstone. Yellowstone blew a whole pile of basically dust and dirt and rocks and steam and water. Scared a bunch of people, but apparently no problem. It's just like a hiccup or a fart or a belch or something. Anyway, it would have scared me. I've been watching a lot of financial stuff from people who know what they're doing, and it's become very, very obvious and very, very simple. You have to understand. Let me just come over here for a minute. You have to understand, kind of, and accept in a very strange way without having much explanation. But from my opinion, and I agree with some of these financial pundits, the United States Federal Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve banking system, and the big name banks that own all the shares in the Federal Reserve Bank, on the understanding that the Federal Reserve Bank is not federal, it's a private, for-profit enterprise. They basically own and operate the world up to the very, very top of the pinnacle of power with the Bank of International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, the SWIFT system, and so on and so on. Well, all of that is imploding, and a new system is emerging. But either way, we have to keep the world spinning. So, in order to keep the world spinning, the Fed is going to do what it does, because it doesn't have any other tools, it doesn't have any other options. Its whole business model is based on fraud, a deception, fiat currency. You can study all that if you want to, do your own research. But basically the formula is, we're basically at $35 trillion of debt right now. Jerome Powell is now on record, we can never pay that debt. It's never going to happen. Janet Yellen says, oh, don't worry, we're going to take care of it. I mean, these people are insane, okay? So, basically, what's actually going to happen is behind the scenes, the Federal Reserve Bank is going to be vacuuming, sucking up all the bad debt that is buried inside the big banks. What that does is it relieves the big banks of the risk of exploding under the burden of debt failure. In other words, the banks are not getting paid back from all the debt that they issued. And so, to hide that problem, the Federal Reserve Bank is buying it all. Hundreds of billions of dollars at a click, at a time, just to stop the implosion. Simultaneously, the Fed is issuing more and more currency. So, effectively, the value of your dollar goes down, weaker, which is great news for the exporting corporations of America, because our prices become cheaper and cheaper. So we keep the American machine going. The problem is that every time the dollar goes down, 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 we the people, the peasants, the serfs, the subjects, our purchasing power goes down, 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 down. At the same time, the Dow and the S&P go up, 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 to infinity. It just keeps going so long as Jerome keeps his finger on the button. Buy more debt, buy more debt, buy all the debt, buy all the bad, 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 bad debt, suck it all up, buy all the bonds, keep the government going, buy, 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 and just pray that nobody's looking. No one's going to call them out. So that's kind of what's happening right now. But there is a certain point where reality is going to check in. And nobody's seen this before, so we're all observing. And most of the pundits are basically saying, you know, it's just a question of when it all goes kapoof. Because all that so-called wealth in the S&P 500, the index funds, the Dow, it's all digital confetti. So it only has amazing value when you cash out, when you sell out your index fund and you cash it out, and then you go and buy a really nice house or car or something of great value to you and your family, your loved ones, or something like that. You retire, you buy a super yacht and travel the world or whatever, and lots of prepper food and self-defense, whatever it is. Otherwise, it's just fiction. It's just pure, pure, pure fiction. And everybody in the deep, deep, deep banking world knows that. Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase, he knows that. And they're just praying that so long as nobody tries to cash in all at once, we're fine. We just keep rolling. So that's just kind of like a keep your fingers crossed approach to running America. So right now, it's buy, 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 debt. Print, 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 print. Issue more currency, issue more currency, issue more currency. Devalue the dollar, devalue the dollar, devalue the dollar. Keep interest rates steady so that there's not too much uncertainty. It's all a fake, fake, fake world. And the rest of the world has to comply with their central banks because there's no other option anymore. And they all know it. So some people are already quietly cashing out. They're basically saying, you know what? I know the market's going to keep up, but I'm going to at least cash out some of what my portfolio says. And I'm going to buy gold bars. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I'm going to buy a really nice car, truck for cash. I'm going to buy a really nice safe home, prepper paradise for cash. Nobody can touch me. Maybe even my own bunker, my own water systems, my own electricity, my own self-defense, all of that into hard assets. Basically skyscrapers, mansions, vineyards, hotels, casinos, all of that stuff. So because he knows how the banking system works. So he uses the debt to his favor, and the banks love working with him because of that. He does not run up debt and then crash out and burn. Oh, there's another guy called Robert Kiyosaki. He's like a financial guru. He has billions of dollars in debt, but he balances that out with billions of dollars in real estate portfolios that generate huge cash monthly revenue and dividends that he pumps back in to feed the debt. And at any moment in time, he can just go click, cash out, and he's fine. He's good to go. So if you know what you're doing, debt can be an extremely powerful, valuable tool. But for most people, the peasants, the serfs, the subjects, the ignorant, the brainwashed, were victims of debt, okay? The suppliers of debt are harvesting our energy. So it's going to accelerate and expand, expand, expand. because that's the only way it can go. They're not going to deliberately say, you know, this is kind of rude and insulting to the subjects and the people. We're going to stop doing this now, and we're just going to be nice. It's not going to happen. So anyway, I was just watching reports on that. If you know what you're doing and you like to take on risk, you can play this market and you can theoretically make serious returns if you know what you're doing. You just basically understand that it's always going up, 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 up with your index funds. And then every time it goes up, buy, up, buy something, buy something, whatever's the cool thing at the moment. So there you go. The next thing I want to share, I'm going to go back over here. Next thing I want to share is that it's now coming out that the FBI was directly connected to Crooks, the shooter at the assassination. Crooks had multiple phones, apparently. This is kind of leaking out right now. It's very, very, very embarrassing for the FBI, but Chris Wray, the boss of the FBI, has already been called out to testify. And I don't know what he's going to say because it's still very early days. But they now have cell phone tracking data that links direct signal lines from Crooks to the FBI in Washington. Okay? Okay? Crooks was over here. Washington's over here. Direct cell phone tracked information. So, until things are proven, we can't really say much, but it's obviously, well, to people like me, I would say this looks like an inside job. It wasn't some random young kid going out to prove himself and claim fame and glory and then go explode in a car bomb. No. He was used by the deep state. And the assassination failed. So, of course, all of that links up with these spectacular crises points, which indicate spectacular failure if you choose to, let's say, choose the unhealthy expression of these planets and their influence. And some people choose that because they want power, money, and control above love, above healing, above things like trust, compassion, honesty, truth, integrity. So, there you go. The FBI and Secret Service are now in very deep trouble. Next thing I wanted to mention is that you've probably noticed by now that the whole thing with Kamala, it's essentially a movie. It's a movie script, and it's being scripted in the writing room day by day as they go along. So some people say it's all part of the plan. It's all of it controlled by the deep state. Everything, all of it. All the assassination that failed it was designed to be a failed assassination, but to look very, very scary for the global media. And then it would scare Trump. Hopefully he'd go away and they could just kill off Joe and bring in Kamala and everything will be great. Poof. It didn't quite go that way. So the writers, the script writers, are really scrambling to try to figure out what to do next. And so my feeling is right now is let's just enjoy the movie. It's going to unfold on a daily basis. These crisis points here, especially here, here, and here, these crisis points are not going to go away anytime in the immediate future. The sun is moving into and through Leo. So that's going to traverse the whole of the Aquarius thing. So it's going to be kind of muted for the time being. Venus and Mercury are already most of the way through Leo, and they've already cast their light onto Pluto. So that's the biggest, these are the most extreme polarities you can have in astrology. Oppositions to Pluto. Whatever planet it is, whenever it opposes Pluto, that's the farthest you can get. So that indicates the degree of discrepancy between three-dimensional life experience relative to what's happening at the depths of the soul. And the further the discrepancy between three-dimensional reality and the depths of the soul is an indication of how corrupt, decayed, and evil that certain people have chosen to become, certain entities. For example, the deep state. I correlate this here directly with the deep state, the elites. They have chosen power, money, and control using the tools of evil, lies, deception, betrayal, murder, blackmail, torture, and child sacrifice to perpetuate their agenda. But with Pluto in Aquarius doing this, with Pluto in Capricorn, it's essentially the whole world is turning into this polarized energy, and that's a classic Pluto. Pluto energy is very, very extreme. It goes to the point where it's, are you alive? Are you dead? Life, death. Yes, no. In, out. On, off. And so on and so on. There's no middle ground. And that's becoming extremely polarized right now. And that's not going to go away anytime soon. Classic example would be something like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the last couple of days. She has been like an attack dog going against Kimberly Cheadle at the Secret Services. And she's probably going to go like an attack dog on Chris Wray at the FBI. And the way Marjorie Taylor Greene works, she condenses everything down, and some of the other people in her caucus, like Josh Hawley, Jim Jordan, and a few others, they like to condense everything into highly, highly crafted, blunt questions that only have a yes or no answer. And then they put that towards the enemy. Did you do this or did you not do that? Do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this? Do you have the facts? Do you not have the facts? And so on and so on. And it's absolutely brutal. In the end, what it amounts to is, if you look at this side, the unhealthy expression, Pluto and Capricorn, we're seeing the worst of the very worst of behavior from people in power. The elites. Them. They. And what that amounts to in its most extreme form is tyranny. Dictatorship. Tyrannical, ruthless, savage dictatorship that has absolutely zero concern for the welfare benefit of the people over which they choose to preside. And on the other side of it, it's very, very simple. It's freedom. It's a desire for the absence of all that evil. So the way you get absence from all that evil is you have to extract yourself from the evil. And that means freedom, a fight for freedom. So that's what we're seeing. That's what we're going to see. It's basically a fight. We're setting up for a very, very, very big, deep, global fight between tyranny and evil. Between tyranny and freedom. That's how you can distill it. Very, very, very simple. And it's a problem for a lot of people because they don't want to think in terms of black, white, yes or no, because it means having to make informed decisions. So you might have thought you were this kind of person, only to discover, once you do some of your own homework, that you're actually more like this. And then you realize, oh my God, I thought I was one of these, but now I realize I'm this. That really messes up my social life and my family life and my friendship and everything and my whole core belief system. Oh shit, I can't have that. I'm going to go back and be one of these. And then you realize, oh, I can't handle being that way because I've discovered that this is bullshit. I'm just going to run and hide. So that's what a lot of people are doing. They don't want to see. They want to just stay in denial and just wait for someone to tell them what to do. They're waiting for a new tyrant to come and take over. So that is going to accelerate and expand all across the world. Another thing I wanted to mention, in terms of the compression of energy, the intensity, it's very, very extreme right now with Uranus in Taurus at the very high degrees, 26, 27 degrees. And it's going to increase once it gets to the 29.5 degree mark. We're going to see monumental crises around the world when it comes to things like weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, hail, ice, melting ice, extreme heat, extreme cold, and weird patterns that don't make any sense. And everyone's going to blame it on CO2, of course. It's ridiculous. Anyway, you know what? Wait a minute. You know what? I'm going to show you guys something. I've got something I'm going to show you after I mention this. So, give me a second. It's thirsty work. Okay. Right now, you know I like to keep an eye on China, okay? Well, they are at the verge of collapse. The whole of China as a country, as a people, as an economy, as an entity, as a Chinese Communist Party, it's all kind of crumbling, live, real time. Mr. Ping knows that. However, he is an extreme, hyper tyrannical communist in the same bloodline as Mao Zedong, Karl Marx, Stalin, the Cuba guy, the Venezuela guy, the Brazil guy, the other Argentinian people, and various assorted tyrants who operate with absolute power. And of course, with absolute power comes absolute, whatever the expression is, corruption. So right now in China, they are literally on the verge of civil war. There are probably 1 billion people in China. 1 billion, not a few million, 1 billion people in China who are really, really suffering financially, physically, emotionally. Their houses are being destroyed, their finances, their wealth, their saving, it's all being vaporized and destroyed, either by nature or by the abuse of the CCP and their whole economy and the way it works. That's a problem for the Chinese elites. The elites are basically consisting of a bunch of families that have been in the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, for decades, starting in the mid 1940s, when communism really, really picked up and took over China. And it's been very devastating for China. The only bright spot was when the previous ruler guy opened up with the World Trade Organization and NAFTA, North American Free Trade Organization, which allowed basically the American debt farm to get married to the Chinese slave camp and merge into this one entity called Chinerica. Okay? That's what I call it. And it's so deeply entwined. America is so deeply entwined with China, and China is so deeply entwined with America, and they are realizing that they are highly toxic towards each other. It's like a very shiny, glossy marriage between two very shiny, glossy people on the world stage, but behind the scenes, they are evil, vicious towards each other. They're doing everything they can to exploit each other. So that is going on right now, but the Western worlds, the Western economies, Europe, North America, Canada, all those places are moving away from China, even if it means extreme losses, because they don't want anything to do with China anymore, because it's imploding. So they're all trying to pull their money out of China, and at the same time, the Chinese people are trying to pull their own personal money out of the state banking systems. So that's putting a huge pinch on the Chinese Communist Party. And it's at the point where the Chinese Communist Party now is literally using armed military and basically what amounts to a type of, what's the word they use? What is it? Martial law. It's turning into martial law in China, where the primary goal of the martial law soldiers is to take money from the people at the end of a gun. It's that bad, okay? So, on the understanding that it's getting very, very, very bad for the elites in China, because their fortunes are being threatened. They do have enormous fortunes, and they're looking for ways to get it out of China before the whole thing implodes. And so what's happening is Mr. Ping is now going after all the billions and trillions of yuan that is owned and held by the top level elites in China and their families, because it's all about families. Chinese Communist Party families. Everybody inherits it. It's nepotism. It's good old classic empirical type nepotism. And so Mr. Ping has made it very clear that if we don't watch out, we're going to be in a state of civil war. And so I no longer have any other options except I have to get the money from you guys, my fellow elites. And of course, that's going to cause a problem. So he's trying to go after the elites and all their money, and he's trying to go after the people, the peasants, the middle class, and even the rich and the corporations and the farmers, to take their money as well. Because without money, Mr. Ping cannot wage war. He can't pay his army. He can't build the aircraft carriers and jets and bombers and bullets and guns. He's going to try to keep it going, obviously. Now, here's another thing which is running like a parallel story. And a lot of it is associated, I believe, with the Piscean energy here. This sector over here that applies to the whole world, more specifically it applies to China in the China second house, okay? Because China has an Aquarius rising, or the CCP, and so the second house is over here, the house of money, real money, value and values. And everywhere that you find Neptune, Pisces type energy, there will be loss, tragedy, disappointment, failure, chaos, suffering, pain. So that's being heavily amplified right now by the crises degrees with Neptune and Saturn, the Grim Reaper, coming in there, taking its toll on the Chinese financial system. It's devastation. Simultaneously, that is happening over here with the global financial system over here in a state of intense chaos. And we had talked about that months ago. We already went through the massive revelations when the moon was in Scorpio last week, okay? So it's very important to understand that we're in a movie, we're watching it, and the implosion of China is the one that I'm watching the most closely, because when it really, really goes down, it's going to send major shockwaves across the world, devastating shockwaves. So the thing is, with Uranus and Taurus approaching the crisis mark, and with Mars just having conjoined Taurus in the crisis mark, Uranus over here, Mars has now moved on to Gemini. We've already seen massive chaotic climatic situations. In other words, apocalyptic flooding across the whole of southern China, drought in the north, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, especially the Three Gorges Dam, which is the pride and glory of Xi Jinping. There's a good chance the whole thing's going to blow. Anyway, I wanted to show you something. I'm going to see if I can find it, so please bear with me. I don't know if I can do this. Sometimes I can do it. Sometimes I can't. I have to go over here. I'm going to go over to this thing over here. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to show you some pictures live, real time. I've got to get, sorry, I have to connect to a better server. Bear with me. I'm doing that right now. Please talk amongst yourselves. And we're going to do this over here. Clickety-click. Clickety-clickety-click. Okay, now we got a better, much more powerful connection. So I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to show you a world satellite map, live, real time. And a couple of scary things that are going on in China right now. I'm going to see if I can show this without confusing everybody. All right, can you see this? It's pretty hard. I mean, it's even quite hard for me to see because the cloud cover is very, very big right now. But what's going on here is that we've had astronomical rain and flooding here. It's still ongoing. And all of this part of this is underneath here, underneath these weird cloud pictures, is China, okay? There's about 1.4 billion people that live here. It's absolutely terrifying. It's millions of people's lives are being destroyed by floods, live right now, real time. It's been devastating for months, and it's going to get worse, okay? And what I mean by worse is this. There's a massive storm here moving up right into the flood zones over here and over here. And there is another much, much bigger storm. Look at this beast. This is an enormous beast of a storm. You know, we had Beryl recently going through the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and Texas and all that. This is much bigger. Well, it's at least as big, if not. And so right now, it's just crossing the north of Taiwan, and it's about 150 mile an hour winds, 140, 150 mile an hour winds, okay? And it's going to cause spectacular devastation, and it's heading right into the flood zones. The flood zone is right here, and that's exactly where the storm is heading. So I guarantee it's just devastating to watch it live when you see this stuff happening. Just mind-boggling. I'm going to see if I can find a better image for you, but it's hard to... You can't see it. There's so much rain. There's so much cloud. And see, all of this is very, very heavy rain. It's coming in here. They've already had all of this extremely heavy rain. It's already passed and moved on. But this is coming in, and this is coming in. Devastation. Absolute devastation. I've never seen anything like it. Nothing remotely like it. So that's happening in parallel. So over here, let me go over here. Okay. So what I just showed you was an overhead satellite live real time of China. There's a huge storm coming in right here. This is the flood zone. It's almost the size of America. Well, it's about half the size of America, a flood zone, okay? They got a huge storm coming in over here and a mega monster storm coming right in over here. It's already completely destroyed. It's just going to get a lot worse. Over here is Beijing, and They are watching the crisis. They are watching their country being destroyed. Mr. Xi Jinping is there trying to figure out, holy shit, what am I going to do with my country, my people? How am I going to get all my money out? Because he's... Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. So not only is China collapsing and imploding on the financial front, the political front, business front, economy, it's collapsing and imploding geographically, environmentally. And a lot of it is of their own making. They tried to defy nature, but nature prevails. I'm sorry. Anyway, so we're going to be watching all this as the movie unfolds. The Kamala movie is going to be, I think, just absolutely bizarre. Bizarre. Notes just came out earlier. Thanks, Love Triber. Hollywood communist lefties have already donated $100 million to Kamala. All right, let's wrap it up. I'm going to say goodnight now. All right, so I hope you found something to enjoy out of that. We'll see what happens, okay? I've already said what had to be said. I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. It really, really, really makes my day, okay? So I will keep you updated as I discover whatever needs to be discovered. I'm going to check out now, okay? And, oh, Victor, please! Language! Oh boy, it's so painful. Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, you weren't supposed to see that. Keep your spirits up. Be loving. Be loved. Be loving. Be loved.